Welcome everyone to Quarantine Cuisine, the Lobster Roll edition.
Lobster Roll edition. First things first, what we need to do is we need to peel the shallot, and we're gonna mince a tablespoon of it and pop it into the mixing bowl. With the rest of the shallot, it is lovely to use in like vegetable stock or chop it up real fine and pickle it. Really nice, but so for this recipe, we're only gonna need a little bit of this shallot. This technique is called haché. So we're basically chopping the shallot super, super fine. And the reason why we want to chop it so fine is because we don't really want to experience biting into the shallot, but we want that subtle flavor, right? So what I'm going to do right here is just make some slices across. We only need like 1 tablespoon, so we're not going to use all of the shallot. So we can reserve that off to the side. And so now that I have a little bit of slices on my board, what I'm going to do is come back, mince it, okay? And then after that, we're going to have to chop it like, we want to chop it super, super fine. Like a lot of times in the professional kitchen, we'll add a touch of this to, you know, salad dressing, or, you know, we put it in like things like this, like lobster salad. You can see how fine I'm getting it over here, right? Again, it's called haché. As you can see, it's chopped wicked fine over here, right? So I'm gonna put my shallot into my mixing bowl, okay? And now what I'm gonna do, and it's a pretty cool technique, if you take a kitchen towel and get it wet, right? And then place the bowl on top of that, it'll really help as you're whisking so the bowl doesn't move around when we emulsify the oil into our aioli, okay?
So now we're going to make an aioli. And so an aioli is an emulsification of eggs and a fencing agent and then an amount of oil. And so in this one, we have eggs, vinegar, and mustard, and then the oil.
Mm-hmm. So mayonnaise and aioli are the exact same thing, except one has a fancy French name with 2 little dots over the I, right? And then the other one is what we all know, mayonnaise.
Mm-hmm. And when you make it fresh at home, it has raw eggs in it.
Yep.
But what you're technically cooking the eggs and a little bit of the vinegar. Is that correct, Tyler?
Yeah, so basically the vinegar denatures the protein. You know, so for those of you that had ceviche before, how you add the vinegar to the fish, and because of the high acidity in the vinegar, it literally, quote unquote, cooks the fish protein. So similar thing happens with these egg yolks for this aioli. And so we have egg yolks and a little bit of whole egg in here. And the reason why we like to add that is because the white from the whole egg, it really does help add to that texture, because basically the yolk is pretty much all fat, and then the white is pretty much all protein. And so we got our eggs and shallot in the bowl. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add all of this Dijon mix, which the Dijon mustard and the champagne vinegar are both in here. Aioli is a mixture of eggs, right? Flavorings and oil. And the properties of the egg is what allows the oil to emulsify in and hold on, as opposed to separating from the eggs. And so there's a couple tricks here that are going to really help with making sure our aioli comes out intact and not broken. Okay, so we also add mustard here, right? The Dijon mustard. So mustard also has similar properties, right? You can emulsify just with mustard too. So we add a little mustard in here. That's going to assist with the emulsification. The vinegar is going to stabilize the eggs, which assists with the emulsification. And then what we're going to do before we add any oil, we're going to whisk it.
Yep.
Until it gets pale, okay? And the incorporation of air is also going to assist with the emulsification.
So the most important part is the first drop, okay?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk these yolks, right? Until they start to turn like kind of pale yellow, okay? And again, it's going to be a good amount of whisking. But what you'll see is that the volume of the eggs does increase.
Yeah.
And again, we're whisking the air into the eggs because it's going to assist with the emulsification. We've got our eggs properly whisked. They're nice and frothy and pale yellow. And so what we're going to do now is I've got my towel underneath my bowl. I got my whisk. And if you are cooking with another person, you're going to have them slowly stream the oil in as we're whisking. And again, it's very important at the beginning, you just want like a couple drops of oil to come into this egg.
Yeah.
Because if you add too much, the egg isn't going to take the oil. And with an emulsification, if it is not done correctly at the beginning, it will never get there. Okay?
Yeah. So we're going to practice pouring, okay?
Right. There you go.
All right. So everybody, right, stretch out a little with me, okay? Oh,
yep.
Right. That's the first drop.
That's the first drop.
One by one.
Yep.
We're going to do about the first 10 like that.
Yeah. Beautiful.
All right.
And if you're doing it by yourself, right, you'll just need to drop with one hand, whisk with the other, and just do it really slowly. Because again, with aiolis, if you go slow at the start, you will get to the finish line. All right. We're whisking, and then Jason is about to add the first drop.
And I'm adding it right to the middle of the whisk section.
Right to the middle of that whisk.
Ooh, first drop.
Wow, first drop is in.
Okay. Are we going to counter up there? That was drop number one.
Drop number one. Beautiful.
Okay, now we can work on a little bit of a steady stream.
So as you can see, it is a very thin stream of oil that Jay is putting in
here.
You
guys even see that stream?
I think it's so thin they cannot even see it. So it should look thicker than when we started. Okay? You see how I'm moving it back and forth and it's creating a trail, right?
Chef Jeff's is looking good there.
We're in that pay over there. And so eventually we're going to add all this oil in here, okay? So Jay's going to keep slowly streaming. So you'll see as the oil hits the egg, right? It immediately separates from the egg. But as you stir it, then the egg takes the oil and it gets thicker. And so the more oil we add, the thicker this mixture is going to become. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and so I'm adding it, and then if I see a little too much oil, right, I just hold off.
Right. And you
let Tyler get all that incorporated.
Right.
And then I go back.
Right. And we can always, it's like, if you ever think that you've added too much oil, you probably have. And so just take 1 second, keep whisking it.
And you guys are going to be so pumped. You can use this for sandwiches, right? You can use this to make chicken salad.
Yep.
You can use this, you can take this and use it like butter on a grilled cheese to toast your bread.
This aioli is going to make a little bit more than what we need for this lobster roll. So we're going to show you guys how you can use the rest of the aioli. At this point, my aioli is starting to get nice and thick, right? So again, Jay is streaming in oil. I'm whisking. So we finished adding the rest of our oil. So even after we've added the rest of our oil, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep whisking it for 1 minute, okay? And the reason being is, again, the more air that you incorporate into this, the thicker it gets, the stronger the emulsification gets. And that's what we want with the lobster roll. So I'm going to keep whisking for about a minute. Beautiful. And at this stage, what we do want to do is season with a little bit of salt. That I want to just season the base with. And so again, we got those minced shallots in there, so it's got that really nice subtle oniony flavor. As you can see, my aioli is really nice and thick. We are going to use all the oil eventually, right? We want the base flavor of the aioli, right? We got that acid from the champagne vinegar. We got the acid from the Dijon mustard. It has that really nice acid, but it's not too overpowering. It's got that really nice subtle flavor of the shallot as well. But we just want it to be a base to really show off the truffles.
Okay, let's say someone might have split theirs.
Yep.
So how do you fix it? Right, is you take another bowl, you put an egg yolk, mustard, right? And a little bit of vinegar in that.
Yep.
And then you slowly whisk, right? About half of the broken mixture to that. And what will happen is it'll re-emulsify.
Yep. And so basically, again, with any emulsification, you have to start at first with it being properly emulsified, right? In order to do that, you got to start slowly at first. So if you've broken it, it's okay. But grab that egg yolk, a little mustard, a little vinegar, and then whisk that all together just like we did. And then add like 1/2 a teaspoon at a time of this aioli or broken aioli, and it will come back.
Why don't you use a KitchenAid? Why don't you use an immersion blender?
Yep.
And honestly, there's a term, right, where you can actually mechanically overwork the eggs. And so sometimes if you put the eggs into a bowl and you just really whip them, or use an immersion blender, really whip them, then they won't hold any more of the yolk or the oil. And so in this instance, you're allowed to go slowly to start and build that emulsion.
You got to feel as you cook, because that's how you truly understand. Otherwise, you just pop everything in a machine and let the machine do it for you. You're really missing a lot of the nuances of learning how to cook.
And so now we want to zest the lemon.
We're going to take our lemon zest.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zest all the lemon straight into this bowl.
Ooh. We have our lemon in there. We have our emulsification made. Now we're going to take half of this carpaccio, right? We're going to chop it up and fold it into our aioli.
Oh, yeah.
And this is going to truffleize the aioli. We're whisking it up.
You guys see that up there?
And now we have truffle aioli.
Oh, my God.
Excellent. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to transfer this aioli into a smaller container, right? And then we're going to mix the lobster in here and just add enough aioli.
Do you use egg white or egg yolk to bring it back? You're going to use egg yolks.
Yep, just egg yolks, because the egg yolk is what has the emulsifying properties.
Yeah.
Egg white doesn't. We removed our aioli from the bowl, okay? Just put it off something on the side. And the reason being is it's a little difficult to make a smaller amount of aioli than this. But so we took all the aioli out of our bowl. No need to rinse it, okay? And then now what we're going to do is come over here. We're going to get this lobster chopped up, dude. So pretty much what I like to do is cut the lobster, right? And you don't want to cut it too small. And reason being is because you really want to be able to bite into those chunks of lobster when they're in the roll. That's really the beauty of the lobster roll. All right, cool. So now we got our lobster chopped up.
Yep.
We're going to pop it into this bowl.
Back.
And now at this point, it's up to you how much of this aioli you want to add. I'm just going to add a couple tablespoons. And so the next part of this recipe is we're going to toast the brioche buns.
And what do you think? Do you want to trim those or leave them as is?
Yeah, so we're going to trim these guys up. In lieu of the New England style bun, what I'm going to do, so if you have a serrated knife, go grab one. Just trim that edge, both edges of the bun, okay?
Yeah. Chef slang or chef terminology is we're going to nip it.
We're going to nip it, dude.
Yep.
You see that? You see that properly nipped bun? And the reason why you want to do that is you want to expose that surface area, because a well-made lobster roll is all about textures, okay? So you got that beautiful, crispy exterior on the bun, right? The toasted side. And then you have that lovely, soft interior. And then you got the chewiness of the lobster, got the luxuriousness of that aioli. We got our butter in the pan. And it's very important at this stage, we got to heat the butter up to the right temperature. Because otherwise, if you add the bread in too early, it will kind of get just a little bit soggy. What we want to do is take the butter, and we gave you a copious amount of butter, because that's exactly how we do it in Maine. We put a ton of butter in there. And then we're going to heat it up until it starts foaming, right? Until it starts getting foamy.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that we cook these brioche buns. We're going to cook them at like medium heat over here, okay?
Yep.
And the butter's got to be foamy. And then once we put the buns in, you got to just kind of keep an eye on them, because you know how buns are. You never really want to toast a rounded edge. You always want to toast in a pan something that's flat, okay? Because then you get even cooking.
So what I'm going to do here is see how my butter is foamy. What I'm looking for, I don't know if you guys know this technique or not, but basically I'm looking at the sides here.
Yep.
Right? Looking at the sides and looking to see if the sides are getting golden brown.
Otherwise known as GBD, okay? Golden brown and delicious. The thing is, while you're toasting these buns, it's important to, you know, kind of check them out from time to time.
Sneak a peek.
Sneak a peek. And again, we're cooking them on like medium heat because they do have sugar in them. Brioche has a lot of sugar in it, so it can get dark pretty quick.
We don't want to open them up. We're going to show you a little technique for pressing it down, right? And so, Charlie, let's say someone, let's say they got the buns, they left the buns out, they didn't put them in the fridge. What's the best way to kind of revive those?
There's a move you can do where you can wrap them in a damp piece of paper towel and pop them in Chef microwave for like 5 seconds. And then they'll get some of their moisture back.
I got it slightly toasted, but I'm going to go a little bit more, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit the bottom of this pan with just a touch of truffle salt. And you don't want to go too fast with this, okay? If you go too fast, right, then what will happen is they like go from being kind of toasted to burnt in like 1 second.
Yeah. And so again, we want to get them really nice and golden brown and toasty. Because you want that texture, that kind of crunchiness on the outside. Yeah, like this one. That's beautiful right there. It's exactly what you want.
So you see up top there? That's my top side. That's my bottom side.
Oh my gosh. The smell of toasted buns.
You know that move?
I've never seen that move.
Well, so sometimes when you're doing these and you think you don't want them to tear, right? What you can do is open them up like that and be careful. They will be hot in there. And you press the bread down so that they kind of stand up on its own. You see that? And again, that's a dope little chef technique. Now when you go to fill them, they won't rip.
We got these buns over here. We got our lobster. And now we are going to plate our lovely lobster salad inside of those buns.
Oh my God.
Wow. I literally feel like I'm back home right now. Just spread that truffle, the rest of that truffle carpaccio out over the top of those buns. And so again, you get a little bit of that truffle in the aioli, right? So it's got that base flavor. And then you add the truffles on top as a garni. And then a very important step is we're going to take the rest of our lemon, right?
Correct.
And we got to cut our lemon into lemon wedges, which is a very important technique. So
everybody should know this.
What we're going to do is we're just going to trim both ends, right? Just trim it a little bit. You don't got to cut too much off. Okay? We trim both ends, and then we stand it up and cut it directly in half, okay?
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
And so after you cut it directly in half, I've got the flesh side facing up. I'm going to cut that in half, all right? And then I'm going to cut that in half again. So now we have all these lovely little lemon wedges over here with the pith on the outside. And so what I'm going to do, right, is come in here and I'm just going to trim that white part up. And there might be a little some seeds there, which if there are, you can just take your knife, scrape them out. And that is how you make a beautiful little lemon wedge.
And then any little bit of greenery over the top here would go great. If you have parsley, we have a little pea shoots from our garden.
Yep, chives work excellent.
Chives work really well. I think even like chiffonade lettuce would go nice.
Oh yeah, a little romaine.
Yeah. And so we're gonna hit over the top, right, with these pea shoots.
Beautiful.
Very important. You gotta double stack the lemons.
You gotta stack that lemon up. Wow.
Wow. So you guys see that double stack on the lemon, right? Very important part of this lobster roll process.